Coronavirus, Fauci says attending rallies or protests is risky as Trump plans return to campaign trail. Washington, the nation's top communicable disease expert warned on Friday that attending large-scale events like campaign rallies is risky and a danger, citing the looming coronavirus pandemic, just days after President Donald Trump said he would return to the campaign trail beginning next week. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, expressed concern for people attending mass protests across the country, touched off by the death of George Floyd, a black man who died after a white Minnesota policeman knelt on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. Fauci said that while he understands why people feel compelled to attend protests, spreading the contagious respiratory illness at such large-scale events poses a true threat. "You know, it is a danger to the people that try to regulate the demonstration," he told ABC's Jonathan Karl on the Powerhouse Politics podcast. "And it is a danger to the people that are demonstrating. So at the top of the day, it's a risky procedure." When asked whether he extends that advice to Americans who want to attend one among Trump's upcoming rallies, including next week's planned rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Fauci said yes. "I am consistent. I stand by what I say," he said. Fauci, a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, reiterated guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on limiting the spread of COVID-19, adding that the safest practice is to avoid crowded places, to wear a mask whenever you're outside. And if you'll do both, avoid the congregation of individuals and do the mask, that's great. When you begin to chant and shout, albeit the instinct is to tug the mask down, which you see, don't do this because there's a risk there and it is a real risk, he said. Fauci's comments come as his boss, Trump, has sought to downplay the threat of a resurgence of the virus as states begin loosening restrictions put in situ in March to stem the spread COVID-19. Earlier in the week Trump announced he would revive his campaign rallies beginning on June 19 in Tulsa, whilst some states still see an increase in cases across the country. More, why are states seeing an explosion in coronavirus cases? Here's what experts say. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, looks on as U.S. President Donald Trump delivers remarks about coronavirus vaccine development within the garden of the White House on May 15, 2020 in Washington, D.C. While Trump has played down the threat of coronavirus, the sign-up page for free-of-charge tickets to the Tulsa rally comes with a liability waiver that says the campaign or other parties related to the event next Friday can't be held responsible for exposure to coronavirus. Campaign officials have discussed providing hand sanitizer and masks at stage, which holds about 19,000 people. Coronavirus cases in Oklahoma dropped in May but have spiked over the past few weeks. The Oklahoma State Department of Health reported 222 new COVID-19 cases across the state Friday, bringing the entire number of the state's positive cases to 7,848. More, Trump stirs anger with plans for Juneteenth rally in Tulsa, site of giant massacre of African Americans. Trump said he plans to carry rallies in Arizona and Florida, two states that have recently seen an uptick in COVID-19 cases. The U.S. surpassed 2 million COVID-19 cases earlier in the week, with quite 114,000 deaths reported. Health officials warn such large-scale events could lead on to an epidemic resurgence. Fauci, previously a prominent voice at coronavirus task force briefings, has been seen less frequently since the White House dramatically decreased the group's operations. The once-daily coronavirus task force briefings have ceased since the White House has shifted its attention to promoting an economic recovery. Fauci told Karl he hasn't met with Trump since last week but task force officials remain in touch. "We haven't thrown within the towel," he said. Earlier in the week Fauci told the annual Conference of Biotechnology Executives that SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, was his worst nightmare, as long as it jumped from animals, was highly contagious and deadly. While a vaccine isn't expected until 2021, Fauci said Friday that he expects one going to be identified by the top of the year. His advice for Americans isn't to completely self-isolate or dismiss safety measures, but to require common-sense steps like wearing a mask and avoiding crowds. "My message is for people to please persevere there. We'll get through this. This may end," he told ABC. It will end with a mixture of public health measures and ultimately science coming in and getting durable solutions like treatments and vaccines.